SVC Media.
Welcome to iGaming Daily, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe. Supported by SBC Summit Latino America, bringing together the leadership teams and product specialists from retail and online operators in Latin American markets.
Discover the potential of Latin America's booming iGaming and sports betting markets at SBC Summit Latin America, the premier industry event in the region. Join SBC at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Miami from October 31st to November the 2nd. Register now at sbcevents.com.
Call it déjà vu, but Entain once again dominates industry headlines as the firm orders a £600 million bookbuild to acquire STS Group, Poland's market-leading bookmaker, for £750 million. Q2 trading alone has seen it commit almost £1 billion in merger and acquisition deals, as STS Group joins 365 Scores and Tidal Esports as new properties adding to the ever-expanding portfolio of Entain. The STS deal saw Entain leadership once more pull the trigger on its local hero buyout strategy. Yet this time, the leadership's M&A moves have been called out by US investor Eminence Capital as value-destroying by diluting the company's shareholding. I'm Martin Elliott, and joining me on the latest episode of iGaming Daily, sponsored by SBC St. Barcelona, are Ted Menmuir, Content Director at SBC Media, and Ted Orme-Clay, Senior Journalist at SBC News and Lottery Daily, who will be discussing all things Entain. So, good afternoon, Ted. How are you today?
Yeah, Big Ted here, I suppose. Yeah, very well, Martin.
And how about you? Sorry, I'm going to have to go through this thing again, as it's the two Teds. How are you, Little Ted, I suppose we'll call you?
I'm all right, yeah, not bad at all. Thanks, Martin. Thank you for using my my hip hop name, I guess. Yeah, good to be here again.
Okay, well, we could call you Little Naz Ted if you want, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's getting us anywhere. So, anyway, back to you, Big Ted. You've been covering this story in quite some detail on SBC News. So, could you just give us an overview of the story and, the reaction to it?
Sure. So on Wednesday, last Wednesday, Entain pulled the trigger and it sent a notice to shareholders stating that it had initiated a book build for £600 million with proceeds used to acquire STSS Poland. Poland's largest bookmaker. Again, it's a deal that's kind of reflective of Entain's M&A strategy, which is to acquire local heroes. That being STSS is the biggest bookmaker in Poland. Within 24 hours, it cleared the book build and it raised the £750 million capital in partnership with its joint venture, Entain CC, which is part owned by a private equity firm called Eminence Capital. And once the deals got initiated, by Friday, a US private equity fund that owns around about 2% shareholding in Entain issued a notice to shareholders, the fund being Eminence Capital, stating that it disagreed with the logic of the buyout. So it's been a heavy news week of Entain stories.
Sure. And one thing I did notice was the share price dropped fairly rapidly after the announcement. So I don't know, Little Ted, if that was a surprise or whether you expected that to follow the buyout.
It's hard to say, really. I'm not. Obviously, at the end of this, share prices are, they can get affected by many different things. So I suppose we shouldn't really be too surprised, especially given that an investor has been, quite sort of vocal about its, as Ted put it, its disagreement with the structuring of the book build and the rationale behind it. So yeah, I guess that part of it really isn't too unsurprising. Although I'm sure Entain are very confident that it will bounce back. Due to the the size of their group, the diversity of their portfolio, and really reaction to the news in general. I don't find it particularly surprising because of, as Ted also mentioned, Entain have this M&A strategy of going in and taking over local heroes and integrating them into their sort of wider group, wider range of brands. And STS are, by far the biggest leader in Poland. I think the next biggest one is Fortuna, who they're still significantly ahead of. The one thing I sort of did find a bit surprising was just sort of the timing of it, because I thought that STS was quite sort of proud of its status as like an independent, an independent local hero. But obviously, we've seen through other Entain takeovers that the firm will likely sort of carry on with its own identity and its own management and operations just as part of Entain.
Sure. I mean, my understanding was that the price they paid was a significant premium on the shareholding, the value of the shareholding for STS previously. So I guess cash-wise, it made sense at this point for STS's owners.
So, Martin, there, the breakdown on the deal is that they're paying 11x a premium on EBITDA earnings of 2022, and that is actually one of the things that this New York Eminence Capital complained about in terms of that being a value-destroying deal. Also, as you mentioned, the shareholding's going down. Yes, share prices will likely go back up. What if they have a good set of interim results, right? I don't see that as a long-term impact for Entain. I think reading into the deal, this is really about Entain and how it manages kind of its investors and what the investors see in Entain's long-term strategy as a business entity. Is it that Entain is there just to get acquired by MGM Resorts? Is that the final destination, or can it make it out any more further than that?
Okay, so it's a good question. What we were talking about there, what Entain's final strategy is, and it was touched upon a little bit, I guess, within the open letter from Eminence Capital, which was written in a really quite entertaining way, and it was clearly designed to make the headlines. Just wondering, Ted, what you thought of the sort of the content of that open letter, and did some of the points being made have any validity?
Well, Martin, I agree with you in the way it was written. It's clearly there to kind of generate interest and generate a reaction to what Entain are doing in terms of an M&A strategy, which has been at the forefront of the company. Now, I think that there is a section of Entain investors that want some clarity in 2023 about where the company is going to stand at the end of the year. What's its position with MGM, which is always kind of the underlying theme of Entain. It's got this massive partnership in the States, but also that it has, I mean, if you look at certain aspects of Entain, I mean, they've got a huge portfolio of 34 brands. And if they were to go with MGM, what happens to that portfolio? What is kept? What is taken away? And I think for long-term investors of the company, they do need some clarity in these kind of points of conflict or outstanding matters. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, just coming back to you, little Ted. I noticed, as we touched on in the introduction, Entain, they have an M&A strategy. They're really very active in their marketplace, have been the last couple of years. Do you see any signs of that strategy changing a little bit? In particular, thinking around the sort of 365 Scores deal, which brought a very different string to their bow.
Yeah, I'd say it's certainly diversifying. Yeah, if you look at obviously it's the historical sort of transactions, they've mainly been specifically on betting and gaming operators like with Bet City, with it was SuperSport in Croatia, and now with STS. But yeah, with 365 Scores, that marked a bit of a change of course for them. With obviously with 365 Scores being a live score app. Quite a prominent one as well, with a lot of decent leadership position in a few markets. I believe they're particularly interested in its potential for Latin America, where, they've made no secret of the fact that Brazil is a priority market for them, with regulation looking quite imminent. And I mean, if you look at a lot of different betting brands, I guess there's quite a few that have diversified to have a sort of a convergence between media and betting. You've got on the topic of live score apps, obviously a big example would be Live Score Group itself. They've got, their flagship live score app, and then they've got the betting app as well. You've got DAZN, who, even though they're not a live score app, is obviously, sports entertainment sort of ecosystem is kind of what they're going for with their own betting brand and their existing streaming platform. Tabcorp in Australia, similar sort of thing with, they've got the racing media rights holdings and that. So yeah, I don't find it too surprising that Entain, as one of, the big global giant that it is looking to try its hand at some of that area of things as a new way of kind of engaging with its customers, reaching new audiences, and building up a profile in countries and markets where it wants to build or expand the presence.
Yeah, I mean, so from that, Brazil, the live score app Entain just purchased was doing huge numbers of downloads in the App Store and the Google Play Store for Brazil. So that will give them, customer data at the very least, I guess. I mean, what do you think, Big Ted? Are we seeing a change in strategy here?
Again, I'll just refer back to, I think how you review Entain and Entain's strategy, a lot of it is to your sentiment about what you feel about the company, and especially the way it's grown. Now, some people view that they've been very successful at the M&A, that this strategy is working, that they are taking podium positions in Croatia, in Eastern Europe, in regulated marketplaces. However, now I think that there is kind of a conflict, as in, is Entain doing too much? And is Entain kind of wandering away from its main strategy of, we're going to get into kind of the top five globally valued businesses for gaming, but this is our portfolio and these are our markets, and we are much more than just an M&A vehicle, just purchasing all these operators.
And just to conclude, then, just going to ask you for, and we're not going to hold you to this. There's no money being exchanged on this particular prediction. But where do you see Entain in, say, 18 months or 2 years' time?
I mean, I'd see it as probably having further diversified its brand portfolio and its reach. I think they're going to start getting more. I'd certainly, maybe not definitively, but I can definitely predict them getting more involved in the media side of things, and sort of looking to bolster their better engagement, customer engagement side of the business through that. As well as continuing to build on as we've put it, podium positions in various markets and pursuing those. I can also see them taking quite a strong position in Brazil as and when regulation lands there.
Sure. And what about you, Ted? Do you think they'll still be a sort of a thriving independent company, not bought out at this stage? Or
I actually think that if you're looking at Entain for the next 18 months, that's far too long. I think you got to go much closer to home and look at the reports in the H2 period and 2023. This is a company that's promising a lot to investors. It's going to reach kind of profitability on the BetMGM JV in 2023. That's a huge milestone for them. The other thing is that I think their investors are going to be looking much more wary about their kind of EBITDA profile, how much the earnings reports, especially after going for all these podium places. What is being added to the bottom line, and what is the true valuation of Entain, a company that is, let's face it, they've come onto the stage acquiring a lot, acquiring component after component, and it's actually saying, well, you've taken them, you've created this portfolio. What is the value of it, right? and what is the value to it towards the market and its actual the investors, and how it's viewed in gambling. So I think kind of looking at it in 18 months now, it's actually about where are Entain now.
Okay, that's great. And I guess we'll be expecting plenty of developments around Entain over the next 6 months then, all of which you'll be able to follow on SBC News. So with that, thank you very much, Ted, and thank you very much also, Ted, and we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of iGaming Daily.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of iGaming Daily, brought to you in conjunction with SBC Summit Latino America, being held at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Miami on the 31st of October to the 2nd of November. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network. Happy reading.